Welcome to 2023. It's been a crazy year. Got a lot of videos up over the past year and going to be pushing forward. So with that said, this is going to be the very first video I'm kicking off for 2023. And it's going to be about subject recognition and the correct settings all throughout your PENTAX K3 Mark III camera. Now, I did do a previous video in regards to using the custom image mode in full auto as suggested in a very small blurb that Pentax kind of hid away in the background of their marketing, which we all know is absolutely not fantastic. With that said, I started to do some checking, and I now finally have a mannequin head that I can utilize in order to actually properly test all this stuff. So I've been doing some testing. I know it's supposed to be the holidays, it's supposed to be taking it easy, but I gotta keep kicking this content out for you, for all of you. You know, like I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for all of you, so I gotta keep giving back to you guys. Anyway, what I found is, yes, believe it or not, in regards to the custom image mode in full auto, it is more than just a JPEG image finishing element. It actually does aid the subject recognition, especially in regards to finding eyes in the shape of a face and things like that. The results were pretty surprising. I wasn't expecting the results to be like this, but having the custom image mode set to auto really does, especially for portrait shooters, it really does help the camera focus and find the eyes immediately. It's consistent. It doesn't waver. When I switched over to bright, it actually started focusing just on the nose, or it would focus on an eye for a split second. Then it would jump right over to a nose, and then it would jump to an eye. And it was very, very inconsistent and completely unreliable. So yes, if you want to take full advantage of the subject recognition system in the Pentax K3 Mark III, then yes, you absolutely 100% need to use custom image in full auto, even if you're a raw shooter. It must be something to do with the tie-in to the 307,000 approximate RGB IR sensor, the actual exposure sensor or metering sensor. So that is tied into the subject recognition because it's 307,000 pixels. So, it can find finite detail. It also has, the infrared element to it as well. So it's a lot more sensitive to various spectrums of photons and things like that. So it can probably depict shape, color, all that a lot more consistently than just relying on the autofocus sensor itself. So all these things are all tied in when you have custom image mode set to auto. So that's my thoughts on it anyway. So I'll just show you exactly what my findings were, and we'll just go from there. So this was, let me just go back to the very, very beginning here. Where are we? It is, oh, went too far. Okay, so this one here was shot in bright for the custom image mode. Now, when I zoom in, this is going to zoom in to where the autofocus point actually was. And as you see, it's zooming into the nose. Not cool. Not cool. So I did another one just to make sure, just to keep it consistent. And there you go. It's on the nose. Next one. And I did shoot this handheld with the 1650 2.8 PLM. And again, it's focusing on the nose, dead center, right? And the next one, it is once again focusing strictly on the nose. Not a good result. It is not cool. And then I switched over to custom image auto. And as you'll see, it focused on the eye. That's one eye. And here is two eye. And I just kept shooting these back to back to back. And as you can easily see, it shot right on the eye. And this is in AFC on a static subject. So this also goes to show that the algorithm improvements that they've made over the firmware updates, we're now at firmware 1.70, you can actually now utilize AFC on static subjects, and it actually does come out well. And There's another one straight on the eye. Here's another one straight on the eye. So as you can see, this is a lot more consistent. A lot more consistent. Every single time it nailed an eye. Now the only issue is we don't have a choice as to which eye it's going to actually focus on. That's the problem. It'll just randomly focus on whichever eye. Now the other thing to keep in mind is as you can see where it has auto, I was using zone autofocus. Each one of those highlighted squares, the white square, or the squares with the white surrounding area, those are the autofocus points themselves. And the black squares, you can see where the red dot is. And if you look just diagonally up one, think of like a checkerboard, just diagonally to the left, up, down, left, down, right. Those are holes within the autofocus system. So if you are focusing on something and you're trying to nail the eyes of your subject, you need to make sure that there is an actual autofocus point on that eye. If there is not an autofocus point on that eye, unfortunately what's going to happen is it will pick the next closest spot for the autofocus, the next closest spot to the eye. So it may pick the nose, it may pick the eyebrow, it may pick the cheek. You really need to make sure that you have the eyes covered by an actual autofocus point in order for this to work. As long as you have that, as you can see, it works brilliantly. Now, the other thing is we don't have a choice as to which eye it's going to focus on. So whichever one of those two eyes it finds may have better contrast at that moment, that is where it's going to actually focus. Yeah, I mean, other than that, just having it in custom image auto, it really did make a big difference. I really was not expecting that whatsoever. I was very surprised. But that's really all there is. I mean, you saw it for yourself. Like those are exactly, that's exactly how I shot the images, and that's exactly what the results were. And I did it over and over and over and over and over again, just to make absolutely sure that I wasn't missing anything. And I don't think that I did miss anything whatsoever. So yeah, custom image, set it to auto, turn on the subject recognition, fire away. Now, the other issue, too, is when using the OVF, the other issue I noticed is if you're using full auto, it does not actually show the autofocus points in the viewfinder unless you press the autofocus button. But then it doesn't tell you which autofocus point it's actually using at that time. It just shows the entire grid. So, again, because you need to have an autofocus point over the subject's eyes in order for the camera to focus on each one of those eyes, you need to be able to see the autofocus pattern, in order to make sure that there is an autofocus point over one of the eyes. The only way to do that is to actually use zone autofocus and just cover the whole face. So for me, this works great for doing headshots. For actual portraits, it may be a bit of hit and miss. Just because of the fact that you would have to go to autofocus, so the entirety of the viewfinder, and at that moment you won't be able to see exactly where the autofocus points actually are in the viewfinder. But that's really all there is to it. So happy 2023, kicking it off with this video. If you like the video, leave a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, always helps out. I'm one of the actually, I think I may be the only, I'm not the only PENTAX channel. Let me just clarify by saying that. I'm not the only one. There are other fantastic PENTAX channels. There's Lee Hayes, there's Lee Iverson, there's Snappiness, Eddie Summers bounce back and forth between Fuji and PENTAX, but the wealth of information that Eddie has is absolutely phenomenal. Really, really, really dedicated and technical wizardry of Eddie Summers. Really, really great educational elements to improve your photography. However, I am the one channel that is, I guess, deep diving into the entirety of the PENTAX fold in regards to, you know, just doing the research, doing the hard stuff, trying to figure out exactly how each and every single element actually works, how it ties together, how to extract the most amount of performance out of your PENTAX camera. And that's pretty much what I do. So, you know, the subscriptions and the comments and all that stuff, you know, it very much is appreciated, just so I know that the content that I'm producing is something of value to all of you. Puts a big smile on my face. And I think 2023 is going to be a wicked year. Wicked year. And that's it. So if you want to support the channel, that info's at the bottom of the description. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And that's it. You'll see me on my next video. I'm out.